all in all, like I feel like we should get into like this other portion of the podcast that I want to start introducing called 51st Dates. So it's like really intimate, getting to know you questions, and you speak about a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, and it's kind of like, what are you looking for? Like, what brings you joy and happiness and peace right now? Because like you're on a whole spiritual journey, and it's like, okay, like I know spicy you, I don't know spiritual journey you. Like, what made you even want to do that?
I would say, well, obviously I have a Christian background, so that kind of played a role in my spiritual journey, because my father's an elder, and I come from a very spiritual background, whether it's Christian or not, throughout my whole family. But I would say I personally received a sign from God in 2021 when I really prayed really, really intensely. And ever since that, I think that's been the catalyst to fueling the journey that I'm on now. I feel also my life experiences, trauma, different people that I've encountered who've shown me different aspects of life, has also, in a sense, aided or, put me at a disadvantage in my spirituality. So I feel like I'd already told myself when I had hit 25, that was like the defining point of a change in trajectory of my life. And then once I got that message, even though I fell into certain things that didn't suit or align with the life that I always knew that I wanted for myself, I still actively made it a thing. Like, certain things are just more important to me than others. I don't know if that makes sense, but I always think about what's my life gonna be like, the life that I'm trying to live, my goals, everything that I'm trying to accomplish, what I'm trying to do strategically in business and everything at the end. What is the real end goal? Like, and at the end, am I truly going to be satisfied? You know what I mean? When I attain all the things that are like worldly and everything else, having the certain money, having the car, the place, investing in real estate, doing in this and that. But it's like, there's so many people who've accomplished those things and they're still not happy.
It's crazy. My therapist, he basically said misery is always feeling that you went without. Like when you're pursuing something or trying to pursue something or you're building something, and it's always like that feeling that something's missing. That's true misery. So it's like that. The concept of being fulfilled is basically what you're talking about, and I respect that completely. So you say you've been through a lot that made you want to get to this point. What are some of the things that you've been through, if you feel comfortable sharing?
I would say poor choices and people that I aligned myself with.
Is this more like platonically or like actually like people you were involved with, like dating wise?
I'll say both, but some people I wasn't even dating, if I'm being completely honest.
Like when I say like dating, I'm talking about like you was vibing with them, getting to know like on an intimate level, or like that's what I'm saying. Cause like,
yeah.
Cause I and I don't mean to be that guy, but I know on social media they'll be like, women be so picky and still be picking the wrong niggas. So it's kind of like, all right, well, like what do you say, like the people you aligned yourself with, like what happened and how did they get close enough to you to hurt you?
I feel like when you walk into a lot of situations with being genuine or transparent about yourself, about your life and everything else, people kind of look at you as like an easy scapegoat. You know what I mean? Some people will confuse the fact that you're meek and think that you're weak. So it's just like people feel like because you're able to be vulnerable that they can kind of take advantage of that, or feel like because you're nice that they're playing you, when indirectly they're really just playing themselves, because you're fortunate enough to meet any good people with the way the world and life is, with the struggles that come with life. But on top of that, you're lucky if you're able to encounter them twice with the same level of trust that they initially gave you when they first met you.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I understand exactly what you're saying, because it's kind of like my mom says you can only fool a child once. And it's the same way with everything in life, right? Like after a certain point, if I keep allowing it to happen, that means that I want it to happen.
Yeah, and a lot of people are walking around like with a mask. You know what I mean? They're not comfortable to fully be themselves and be transparent about their struggles and fear of what other people think.
So in saying that, well, who would you say you truly are? pass the mask, pass the because you seem like the type that you want to be able to talk your shit. We kind of spoke about that off air, like being able to say whatever you want in any opportunity in any spaces and not feel any type of like remorse or any type of fear in terms of doing that. So who are you past the mask?
I would say past what people perceive or think of me. I feel like I'm a really like good person. Of course I have my faults, you know, the good comes with the bad, so everything isn't perfect. But I walk into a lot of situations with genuine intentions, and I make it clear, at least in the beginning, always. I feel like the problem is you can't always lead with that in a lot of situations because you kind of set the tone for people to test you. And in any situation, somebody's always going to test you, whether it's direct or indirect. So I just have to know in certain places or certain things that I'm doing that not everybody's going with the same intention or mindset as me. So it's more of me just being conscious of my environment, but at the same time, not feeling that I have to conform to fit in other people's environments, and being able to understand that the walk that I'm choosing for myself is a lonely one. Not a lot of people are going to understand what I'm seeing when I'm seeing it.
No, I feel that. So how do you find faith and trust that the things will work out? Because you're basically saying that you're following and chasing something that only you and God can see.
Yeah.
So how do you encourage yourself on your process? Because I feel like as someone who also is a visionary, what tends to happen is that when life hits, life be hitting.
Oh, it does.
And you have to still be who you are in your divine purpose while still navigating shit that you ain't create.
Yeah.
So how do you motivate yourself? How do you keep yourself in a space where you're always trying to improve and be, you know, the highest version of yourself despite things that you deal with that you didn't create or didn't even impose on yourself?
I just remember and reference back to times that I was without, not necessarily because like I was in a position where I couldn't access the things, but I put myself in a lot of positions where I deprived myself of things that I thought were important or things that I needed, so that I could always remember my essence and who I truly am at my core without the things that I felt was important or that I needed to like survive or make me me. I feel like I constantly break myself down to kind of rebuild myself up. But I feel like another thing too is that honestly, I wouldn't be where I am now without God, honestly, truly speaking, because it's just so many things that have been planned to try and deter me from what I'm supposed to be in my divine purpose. And for every reason, even if I get knocked off of where I'm supposed to be, that would have perfectly aligned me to get there at that moment, that rejection always redirects me back to where I need to be in alignment. It's like it may be a chip in my armor, but it's like, nah, I'm built for that, moving on to the next thing. And I just have to constantly remind myself, you've always been at a point where you thought that, dang, this may not work, and you've always came out of it. You know what I mean? So you always got to remember, there was a point in time where you thought you couldn't do something. Then you get to a point where you can't do it. So it's like a new beginning every time. You know what I mean? Like this is the end, and the end is room for a new beginning. What comes after this end? Something else is coming. So I always just keep that in my mind. And even if I'm getting towards something that is the end, if it is going to be the end, I want it to end on my terms.
Oh yeah, I always tell people all the time, you won't kill me. Like your stress, what you like. I always say, what my mom and I, we have this inside. It's like, what's my own inside? Like, what is my this has nothing to do with me. So I won't let somebody else's stress kill me, because at the end of the day, the way that I need to operate at the highest level requires me sometimes not so much to be selfish, but to look internally, because it's gonna be a time, especially in like being someone who's pursuing a PhD and stuff like that. Like it kind of gets to a point that this process is a very lonely journey. And you know, you can't be concerned with the stressors of everyone else's life, because if you do, you won't get what you want done out of this whole process. So trust me, I feel you on it. So when it comes to like relationships, like what are some of the things that you're looking for? Like, are you looking for like a God-fearing man who's a virgin and has you like, what are you looking for? Because I feel like, you know, even in terms of religion nuances and like what was established by our parents for us to believe in, I feel like you can, and I don't want to say you can do both, because I don't want to go against the doctrine, but I feel like in practice versus the ideology of what was said versus the in practice portion of it, I think is where conversations need to be had.
Yeah, because it's the thing. There's some people who are religious and there's some people who are spiritual. The problem is if you're reading a book that was intended to be spiritual, but you're reading it like a regular book, you're not going to be able to receive the message. It's like a parable. You know what I mean? It's even like with English. When you read something, there's an indirect implication of what you're reading. So if you don't understand that verbiage, you're not going to understand what's truly going on. And the thing is that you may just be reading and taking it in. Did you truly meditate on it? You know what I mean? And people are going to do what works for them, and that's fine, but everybody's tailor-made a certain way. And there's certain people that you're going to encounter in your path, so you just got to find someone who aligns with not just where you are today, but where you're trying to go in the future. So I feel like my thing is that I kind of have to decide in the future, do I want to be married and have kids or not want to do that? Because the path that I'm on is just like whoever I'm dealing with needs to understand that when I have this vision, regardless of the demands of you or what life is choosing, we all going to have to answer for ourselves outside of everyone else. And also, in me also wanting to be a mother, if that ends up being my fate, it's like I don't want to have a career that takes away from me being able to spend time with my kids.
For motherhood, because motherhood is a touchy topic, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of women now, it seems as if like motherhood is what they're chasing, but the marriage component and monogamy and that aspect of it is becoming like secondary to that. So what is your stance on that? Like, is like, if you don't find love, does that mean you not like trying to, like, is it a dub? Like you're not going to be a mother? Or is like, I'm going to be a mother with or without this nigga?
I feel like my thing is that you do want to create an environment for the child that you're bringing into the world to have that balance. You know what I mean? No matter what gender they are, female or male, there's certain things that your kids need to be equipped with if they want to be able to survive in the world. And you don't want your situation to impact how they're viewing life because you didn't take the necessary precautions you needed to take to create a space for them to be able to thrive. Not to say there are not a lot of successful children who come out of single parent households, but if that's something that you can avoid, I feel like we've seen enough examples of that dynamic, whether married or not married, of how relationship dynamics impact kids and their development and how they go about the approach of marriage and everything else. So I would never want to bring a child into the world knowing the dynamic of whoever I'm dealing with is not going to suit that child in the event me and that person don't end up staying together.
Is it weird that I feel like nowadays people have to kind of plan for the end versus like plan for the process?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like a lot of folks like already are like, well, if I feel like it's not that we have a jaded perspective on what love and relationships and romance look like, but it's like I mean, yeah, it's low key that like it's like
I have to be responsible because it's just like at the end of the day, I don't want to make it seem like men don't have their role to play, but I also have to consider what's going on in the climate of the world that we're in. And if I'm going to bring a child into this, it's just like, it's not that, I'm waiting for my child to be 18 and then my responsibility is gone. That child is my child even until the death. So I have to be active when they need me. They also need to, I also want them to be independent, but I also need to make sure I'm giving them the proper tools that they need to be able to navigate the world in the event that I'm not around.
Yeah. So what role do you feel like a man plays in your life? And when I say that, I know that's a very, very abstract question, but there's a reason why I asked it, because I just want to see where you go with it. Like, what role in your life, when you look at your life, like what role has men played in your life, and has it been more positive than negative, or do you feel like it was more negative than positive?
I would say what men have shown me is perspective.
In what way?
How they've shown me the view of the world.
In what way?
I would say in terms of relationships, in terms of spirituality, and in terms of business.
In what way? Like, I need specifics.
Okay. I would say in terms of the world, based on the man, where they come from, their ethnicity, how they're personally perceived, and how they feel like they have to navigate getting themselves to where they want to be financially.
That's
whether
real.
that be academics or business, the way they're perceived, and how their financial disadvantage forces them to have to navigate things differently.
Well, that's capitalism.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like what people don't talk about enough is that with a man, if a man is not financially in a position for him to be fully himself, you're never going to get the fullest version of that man. You could be the nicest person, you could cook that nigga meals and let him know how much you love and reassure him. But if he's not in a position to do what he knows that he can do for you under the right circumstances, and even the wrong circumstances, but just if he's put in a position to kind of be semi-successful, you know, because I've noticed that too. Like for me,
yeah, masculine man at that, because you know you could be a man, but you could be more feminine than masculine. So that's a whole nother.
I think even as a feminine man, you still would want to be able to put yourself. Like I think it's just innately what it means to be a man is being able to position yourself to not only do what you need to do for the people you care about, but also be able to pivot.
Yeah.
And if you don't have resources, money, support, all those things, being able to pivot is very hard to do.
Yeah.
And like a man is only judged by his options. So at the end of the day, if I have the option to do all these different things and I don't get anything done, or I don't have an opportunity to really get it done to the level that I want to, and I'm stuck to work a dead-end job, then that in itself is crushing. Because as a man, like, there's a reason why men tend to like a lot of women. There's a reason why men tend to do a lot of various different things that may look as if they're not focused or disciplined or whatever. But as a man, that's we're conquerors. We're conquerors. So if something that inflames us or makes us passionate, we should go and do what it takes to go make that happen. But if you don't got the things that you need, then at that point it's like a trade-off. Like even like for me, I could look at my life, it's like there's certain times like I would have loved to just be able to be free and natural and do things that other people can do. But like we spoke earlier, like certain things other people do, they might not have they might not be detrimental to them, but that could be the thing that gets you killed. It
becomes like a luxury, and certain things are a luxury that other people, it's not a luxury to. It's like that's their norm, but it's conceptually considered a luxury for you because you can't afford to do those kind of things. And it's not even about money, it's just that real representation. Your walk in life is just like, because of the way you're perceived publicly, you have to navigate the world a little differently than others, because there's certain repercussions or consequences for you doing certain things because you don't have the backing that you need to do what you want to do.
Yeah, because
safely.
Yeah, because I even just talking about like me as a person, like just let's get real, let's get deep. It's Talking Cheap, and this is 51st Dates, and we in that vibe. So it's like for me, like when it comes to like relationship, sex, all these different things, if people really know me, I'm a very sexual person. Very sexual person, very passionate person. I'm nasty as fuck, to be quite frank. But to be also honest, I was raised by women. So I've always been taught to have self-control. I've always been taught, like I see what it's like to really be around nothing but women all the time. The pretty, the ugly, the internal stuff, the mood swings, all of that. So for me, I've also understood what happens when you are with a woman that is not aligning with your purpose. And I've also seen what happens when you get caught up in pleasure and in things that make you feel that you do not think things through. So for me, like it's legit survival, because I'm a person who has a great heart, that loves people, who have good intentions. But I've also seen so many stories in history, not even just from the external like stuff that we've read about, from internal like family, like personal people I know. And it just like, for me, I'm not gonna say it traumatized me, but it definitely made me really view people, relationships, and the things that I know is going to position me to be at least successful a certain type of way. Like even the idea of like success versus love. Like I know a lot of people that will choose love over being successful. For me, it's like I can't love that person the way I would need to if I'm not in a certain financial, or if I'm not successful to do so. If I'm not successful enough, I can't do that. Like I can't do it. Like even like for me, like in college, so we was talking about UB stuff yesterday, but like even in college, like I wasn't just messing with just any girl. Like I just couldn't feel like that. I didn't feel safe. I felt like when people came into my space, I didn't feel like if I was messing with just any random girl, especially like I had a big closet, I had a lot of stuff, and also outside of just that, like who I was to the spaces I occupied, it just took being with the wrong person, and that could have been the end of it. Whether it be people saying different things about me to try to discredit my character, or whether people saying, you know, just being able to give people my location, my security, my livelihood. Like access is important. So that's why gatekeeping, that's why motherfuckers be gatekeeping everything, because they know that when you get the wrong motherfucking in, it can really crumble everything from the inside out. And for me, I've also, like, being from New York City, I was raised in that era when like dudes was really getting set up by girls. Like I don't think people understand what like that, like the mid 2000s, like 2010, 12, 14 era looked like. 2008, when you're hearing stories about shorties telling dudes to come pull up, they pull up into the spot.
Shorty like, I'm going, everything they got, they watches, jewelry, credit cards, everything, swipe.
I could even go even deeper. Like I could also understand, like during COVID, I wouldn't call her sneaky link out of respect to what she was at that moment. We might have been doing things in secrecy, but we wasn't sneaky, you know. But I would just say, like, even in my spirit, something in my spirit says like I had to stop dealing with her, and then luckily I stopped dealing with her. The next like 2 days she got COVID. This is right before, and you gotta think, like I lost 30 people during COVID. And you got to think, like my family, we legit ran our business off the grace of God and just being like, we were essential. We were the lifeline for our community. There was really no supermarkets opening to them. There was no toilet paper they was not getting nothing if we wasn't getting it. Because if you don't have the access, the mobility to get to the supermarket at a certain point in time to grab all that stuff, or have the money, you gotta think folks were selling toilet paper for crazy numbers.
Exactly.
So for us, like, we were the lifeline. And imagine if I would have got sick, and then I would have got my mom sick or my sister sick, then now financially we in a bad situation. Now the business is failing. Now somebody might die, you know what I mean, all because I didn't have no self-control. So for me, it's like I realized a long time ago that I can't play like everybody else. And it sucked, because if you know me, like, you know me, I like women, I like vibes, I like fun, I like partying, I like all of that. But it's kind of like,
it comes at an expense, and sometimes that expense isn't worth it. You can't charge that one to the game.
Man, we need to put that on a shirt. Cause that's what it always been for me. Like like, I ain't gonna say I'm a gallus, but I'm really low key, high key a gallus. Like I'm naturally more comfortable being around women. And I like the conversations. I know I'm not no bitch nigga, and I know a lot of women ain't pussy. So it's kind of like, let's have a conversation. And when you get to see somebody's mind and how their processes work and their inner workings by the way that they assess things and the way that they produce and the way that they, like, you know, rationalize things, it kind of helps you look at your life, be like, yeah, this could either work or cannot work.
Yeah, it's just a different perspective. I feel like sometimes males, they just look at things, I don't want to say all males, but some males look at things like black and white. But I feel like sometimes a woman's perspective can kind of make you see things from a different standpoint. Like, I may look at something from a technical point of view, but maybe he's not as charismatic or persuasive. So that may be something that a woman may be able to dominate in that arena, because the way women are able to navigate the world is through their charisma or their persuasiveness and things of that sort. So you may just think, well, I got the stats and the numbers, that should be enough. But it's just like, did you win the game? Yeah. What was your real impact? Yeah, it might look great when they post it on the socials, but did your team get better? Did you really dominate? Did you operate at the highest level? Did you make everyone around you better? Are you empathetic? Like, you know, tapping into your emotions, and that's another thing. Some guys just don't want to tap in, and they feel like that's the weakness, but being vulnerable doesn't make you necessarily weak. It's what you do out of vulnerability that'll determine that. You just gotta look inside for that one. I mean, I'd even say it's like being great and being successful doesn't mean you just have a bunch of degrees and a nice car. Yeah. Because when it's all said and done and you're not here no more, what is that doing for you or for anybody or your legacy? You know, like, that's what something I've been chasing. I've been telling my mom lately, like, listen, like, you gotta go do things. Like, I had to ask her, I'm like, Mom, like, are you doing this for me or my sister? Like, because I don't think you're doing it for us at this point. Because if you are, you would include us in it to that extent. Like, if I'm telling you, like, yo, like, I don't think you should be doing this, or I think you should do this, because I know that I'm gonna be the one to have to manage it eventually. Mm-hmm.
and you're disregarding that, at that point, you're not doing it for me. So let's not say that you're doing it for me at this point, and it's okay.
Yeah, you just have your own legacy, and you feel like the legacy you're creating, it's a vision that maybe we won't be able to see at this time, but it is going to impact us and maybe help position us a certain way. And I feel like when you're trying to start generational wealth for your family, or restart up generational wealth, depending if they had it already back in your country before they migrated here, it's just like the terms in the playing fields versus then and now in the two different places is different. So the way you're choosing to structure yourself and your family, the position you want to be able to put them in when you're not around, like, that's for years to come. So when you're starting off as a founder, it can be kind of hard.
And even I'll just say, like, who's to say, like, your home is really your home?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us, you know, who left Africa and come here, and they hear the horror stories of what's going home back in Africa based off of land or whatever rights you have, and you're not there. Can you really say that's home? Like, but then it's like, at least this home, you know, I know what I'm dealing with here. That home, you don't even know what's gonna happen, because folks could really just poison your food or do some wild shit, and it's not like someone's gonna hold them accountable.
I feel like you can make any place a home. It's just how you define home and what's important to you. I feel like I prefer to be a nomad versus a person who has like a set home.
Yeah, I don't like being clocked.
Yeah, I feel like you should always be able to move around freely the way you want to move without restriction, because certain environments, you're there to do what needs to be done and serve its purpose. And once that purpose has been served, there's the next thing. And sometimes the next thing is not going to be the place that you originally established yourself.
And also, sometimes I've also realized, especially like with places like Buffalo, I've been doing events for 10 years now, and for a while I was like, I don't think I should be doing this anymore. As much as I enjoy it and it brings me joy, but it doesn't bring me joy because of the business of it. It brings me joy seeing people having a good time.
Yeah.
And turning people up, and just seeing what the power of my voice, my energy, my vibe could look like in a micro scale. But what I've also realized is, like, there's a time and place for everything. Like, sometimes your season is run out. Like,
yeah, there's a season for everything.
Yeah. And that's something I had to learn too, especially like with friends, relationships, especially dating. Like, I haven't had a real girlfriend. Like, that's like my girlfriend since high school.
I wouldn't say I've ever had a real relationship.
Wait, time out, huh?
I would say I've never really had a real relationship, even though that would sound really offensive.
That's not the offensive part. It's like, I don't know if that's true.
I've only been in 2 relationships.
But you're saying they're not real? Like, those were like long. You didn't have. It wasn't like a sneaky link one night and we out. It was like you was really engulfed in these people. Like, your existences, your moment, your lives intertwined for long periods of time. Yeah. Like, it dictated how you interact with other people. It dictated the things that you did, the kind of conversations that you could have had with other people, just experiences. So as much as you can say that's not a real relationship, I have to ask, like, why would you say that?
The reason I would say it wasn't real is because when you're first being introduced to something, you think it's one thing. Once you're outside of it and you really look at it, then it's just like, well, this was this, this was this, this was that. So it's like, was it real? Maybe at certain points we had real moments, certain point real experiences, genuinely cared about each other, may have been in love in certain points, maybe just had love for each other, but what I would define as a solidified relationship now versus then, it's not the same. So when I really look at it, I'm just like, it wasn't real, because I just feel like what we've perceived as relationships through social media and all these other things is like, a lot of it is just personal perception versus you and the person just genuinely liking each other and just growing together and respecting each other's growth throughout your process of being together. A lot of the times people's relationships are influenced not just by what they solely think, but the people that they advise about their relationship through friendships and the people who are around them. Because there's a lot of things people would be willing to deal with in a relationship that if they were to vocalize it to the people who are closest to them, they would not tolerate. So there's certain things you can't get advice on in a relationship, because the only people who are really going to understand is you, that person, and if you're spiritual about it, if you have God in your relationship.
So you're saying basically, if God's not in the middle of that relationship, and if you're not completely transparent, free, etc., then it's not a real relationship.
Yeah, because you got to think about it. Anytime you're in a relationship, if you get mad about something or you feel a way about something, how many times are people transparent about how they saw something and it gave them a certain thought? People are not even fully transparent about what they think and how what they think influenced the decision that they made and whether they made it out of emotion and everything else. How much of you do I really know?
Yeah.
And how much of you do I know that's predictable or unpredictable? Are you rational or irrational?
So in terms of, let's say, you finding love, right? How will you know that it was the right? How do you think you will know it's right? Because like I said, like I speak to a lot of ladies, especially like high earning women, like they kind of have like this deadline on how things are supposed to work, and I just kind of sit here like, who's to say that you're even gonna be a good wife? Just because you're a good person don't mean you're a good wife. Or just because like you're in a great financial situation, who's to say that you yourself will be able to, one, sustain it, and obviously I'm not putting this on anybody, but one, sustain it, but like two, like be able to manage it when you throw things like kids and another relationship in the mix, because you don't realize like other people and the way that they react to how you feel also impacts things that you can be doing. So an example for that is like I had a business call yesterday and I was awaking out my sleep, and I was talking to a woman, and then her man decided to come and react a certain type of way, not knowing the full concept of what conversation transpired. And then that in itself already terminated a relationship. And it was like, well, if this person would have communicated probably more effectively, or not even just that, like not take it upon themselves to involve themselves in something that didn't concern them, who's to say what could have transpired from it? And that's also from the flip side. Like, let's say I wasn't a rational, level-headed person, or the conditions in which this conversation happened was different. Who's to say what that could have transpired to? And like, we come from what I've learned, especially like studying communications, like words have been the catalyst for more deaths and wars than anything else. Like, words have created and destroyed civilizations. Words. Yeah. So it's all about like the things that you say, the things that you do, and the impacts of that. And like what you kind of hit on is like, folks don't know themselves. So how the fuck you think you gonna know somebody in a year, 2 years, 3 years?
And the thing is that there's a difference between giving somebody what they need versus what you think they want. You know what I mean? Like, are you able to provide that person the emotional security that they need? Do you only see them at face value or surface level? Or do you only love the things that you share in common with them, but do you love the things outside of what you guys have in common about them?
Yeah, it gets real deep when you start looking at the nuances of what people are. For the most part, like I feel like when it comes to women, men look at women as like objects.
Commodities.
I wouldn't even say commodities, but I would say more like, well, how are you adding? And I feel it's the same way with just people. We can say commodity because that's just capitalism, right? Yeah. How are you adding value for an exchange of a good or service, right? So for my time, what are you going to do to make this exchange of my time valuable for the both of us? And I feel like, some people don't even think about for the both of us. Some people are just selfish and they just think about for the benefit of me. And then after it benefits me, maybe later on down the line, maybe it could be for the both of us. But there's still restrictions on that. So yeah, you just gotta walk into it just knowing what you're walking into. I feel like that's why I never really took a lot of people seriously to a degree. It's just like, I'm just there, but I just know this isn't going anywhere. So what are you looking for?
I feel like anybody that I deal with that I'm going to take serious going forward, like, we really just have to have a very strong, solidified friendship first. And I feel like it has to be outside of like physical romance.
I get that.
In terms of like intimacy, because I feel like some people feel like intimacy is solely based on physical connection, and though that does play a role, if that is the sole basis of the relationship, then it can't really withstand anything.
So you're looking for obviously longevity, something that is structured. I ain't gonna say structured, but something that's stable. Yeah. You said looking for someone who understands your level of intimacy. So what does your level of intimacy look like?
I feel like I can't necessarily define it, because the more you love yourself and you know what you need and you don't need, that's subject to change, but I feel like the person just has to love me at my core.
Which is what?
Just me. There's certain things about me that's just me. Like, I'm naturally a giver. You know what I mean? I like reading. I like to do certain things. There's certain things about me that I feel like indefinitely isn't going to change. But I feel like because I love knowledge, I love to learn, I'm open to different perspectives. So it's mostly a person just opening my eyes to things that I've never seen before or things that I don't fully understand, bringing context, perspective. So, yeah, basically changing my outlook on life. You have to be able to teach and lead.
Yeah, that's tough.
And yeah.
That's tough. The teaching and leading part is crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a big responsibility. And I feel like that person also has to be mentally prepared to deal with when I'm not always at my full potential. And understand that at certain points in time, I may not be at 100. Some days I may be on 20. Some days I'm on 50. You know what I mean? But can you still operate and deal with that? Because it's not always going to be good when you're dealing with me.
Do you think that the trade-off sometimes is too grand for people?
I feel like people walk in thinking that it's going to be a walk in the park, but then they realize that it's very intense and it's not easy to deal with. And then I have so much that I want to accomplish and do, and because of the way that I want to go about it, they either feel like they can align with it or not, or they feel like I'm a good person. So it's kind of just like, you'll be a person that I always have there in the event I want to double back, and I'm not a person you can really double back with. It's like, I don't really give second chances romantically. So
yeah, that's tough because especially in the world that we live in now, like everything's so like instant, you know what I mean? Like it's like, I was even talking to one of my homegirls, and she was kind of like, she ain't even like interested. Not so much she ain't interested in dealing with nobody, but she's like, she just masturbates. Like that's her shit. Like she, like just gets to the point that she makes that herself feel the pleasure that she feels is missing from someone else. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's a bad thing, because it's like, I know there's a lot of like negative connotation with masturbating and like the mental component of it. And like being disconnected from reality and all that stuff, and not being able to actually share the experience with somebody, and you know, so I get that. But then at the same time, I also look at it from a different perspective. Like her perspective is like, for her, like she's just trying.
It's safer for her than to put herself at risk with people who don't want to be transparent about their sexual encounters, their sexual health, the way they navigate dealing with their other partners, if they have other partners, and disclose that. It's just like, it could be one time where you're just being careless, and you can end up with something that you never would have had you not just acted out of impulse.
Had a little more self-control anyway.
Or put yourself in a situation where you end up being pregnant by someone that you didn't intend on having a child with, and having to make the decision between having a child and connecting two bloodlines together, dealing with different families, different perspectives, conversations you guys never had, or deciding to terminate a child. So I feel like the burden of women, especially women of minority races, black women, African women especially, is kind of hard.
Yeah. What do you think men could do to make it better?
I feel like first,
Or at least
men need to hold other men accountable for their actions in terms of what they do and how they navigate dealing with women in a respectable manner, because I feel like at the end of the day, all men come from women. So if you're not going to show women respect, you need to be mindful of how you're navigating with them, regardless if they're directly from your family or not. I'm not saying that there aren't women or females out there who operate in a way that shows that they don't respect themselves. I'm not going to act like that's not there, because it is. But I feel like men who deliberately go after women that they know are not interested in the things that they want to partake in, and feel like they have to coerce them or convince them into playing a game which in the end isn't worth it, just to get cool points from the guys that like you experienced the woman. I feel like that's just childish, a very high school, boys kind of mentality. And I feel like the longevity of that doesn't go anywhere, especially when these same men get to a certain age and are trying to look for a spouse or a woman, and it's just like, well, you and your crew basically decimated or destroyed the potential of any good women in the area that you're in because of the way you guys navigated that. Now you're trying to go to another city to find a woman that you consider to be high value or have quality, but sometimes you end up with the same type of woman, but just in a different city, but you just don't know the type of guys that she dealt with.
No, that's true. And yeah, you said a lot, so it's okay. We gotta unpack a couple things. So in terms of men holding other men accountable, I feel like I'm gonna just keep it real. I don't feel like there's a lot of real niggas out there.
Yeah,
that's number one. So
it's hard.
It's that. So there's that level of it too. Next, I think there's also another level of it. Like women will be like, "Oh, you afraid to hold another nigga accountable because y'all don't want to fight?" And I'm sitting here like, "No, it ain't that. The same niggas that you think is crazy, we think is crazy too." And vice versa. And you gotta understand, when it comes to men dealing with other men, we not having conversations.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes women think that this shit is just a gladiator, like fight for my honor shit. It's like, nah, this is deeper than that. Cause let me go defend your honor, and something happened to me, you gonna take care of all the responsibilities I had before I decided to step in and defend your honor. You gonna take care of my mama now? You not. So shut the fuck up and just be what you gonna be. I'm not now. Am I gonna say if a man is disrespecting a woman, I'm gonna just sit there and let it happen? Fuck no. Cause that's not.
But we also have to be mindful of the environments that we put ourselves in and the people that we allow to be around us that creates that environment.
Because a lot of men will be like, oh, you like, I see Fat Joe say like, yeah, I'll die for a black woman on the street that I don't know. And I said, like, yeah, that sounds cool for the pod. Because I'm not saying that there's not, like, I've stepped up for many women that never even looked at me like that actually set me up for my own demise. And I still stepped up for me because I would be like, if that's my mama, I would hope someone do that for me. Exactly. But at the same time, when you are in a position to really change your family's generational lineage, you can't position yourself to be in certain spaces to do certain things. And it's not about being a fucking coward. It's about being real. If something happens to me and mine on my accord, then what?
Like, who's gonna step in? And that's like a certain level of consciousness people don't think about. And I feel like everybody has their own moral responsibility as a person, you know what I mean? You do what you can. But even us being in New York City, let's be real, we've seen people overdose or engage in certain things, taking public transportation and everything else, and everybody just walks around and does what they gotta do because nobody got the time to do what? Be humane or have that empathy or compassion for somebody. Because at the end of the day, I gotta clock in for my shift. I don't clock in for my shift. I got certain bills I gotta pay, so I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Sorry that this is happening to you, but right now, like, me saving you, that's cool, but me saving you could cost me where I'm living. So it's a you know, sometimes people can't even be moral because of the way society is structured and the way their life is structured. Some people's income and finances is very strict based on how they work, and if they don't do what they gotta do, they don't got nobody to fall back on. They only got them, and that's a lot of people's situation. So people are operating in survival mode.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, especially in New York.
Yeah, you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah. There's no such thing as free cheese. There's no such thing as free cheese. And
if it's free, then it came at a price. Somebody got a tax deduction for it or something. So don't never think that it just came free.
And what I said earlier on my class, I'm like, if something is free 9 or 10 times, you're the product.
Yeah.
So what is intimacy? We spoke on intimacy, but what does intimacy and pleasure look like to you at this point in your life?
I feel like being mentally stimulated.
So the physical aspect is like, yeah.
I already know how to do that on my own, outside of a partner. I already know what works for me. And I feel like I've navigated with a certain amount of people to kind of just know. But I feel like the best experiences are when you and that person have that mental connection.
Do you feel like you're misunderstood?
To a degree.
What about mishandled?
If you don't really know who I truly am, how can you properly handle me?
Do you feel like a lot of people mismanage your relationships or mismanage things that you've communicated to them?
I feel like some people kind of just always looked at me as like, well, she's a good person. Then I was just sitting, it's like, yeah, I am, for the most part. I could also be a very not so good person. I choose not to. But yeah, I feel like some people get comfortable with that. They just try and keep as many good people in their arsenal as they can for their rainy days. But the problem is you're not always going to have a good person on a rainy day. Some people have rainy days and they have no one. So, and people don't check on their strong friends or the people that they think are the strongest because they've they don't vocally express that they need certain things because they've become so equipped to being in a mind state where it's just like, yo, whatever happens is like, it's on me, you know? Can't fall back on you. I can't tell you certain things because at the end of the day, like, you're careless in the way you operate, the way you navigate, the way you communicate with people. I could give you information that could be detrimental to me.
And you'll be the first one to sell me out for it.
Exactly, at the right price. And that's the thing, everybody feels like they can be a confidant, but part of being a confidant is understanding that you got to be able to hold everything for everyone. Not everybody knows how to hold that water, hold people's personal experiences, and regardless of whether things play out the way they want to or not, it's just like, just for the simple fact of what we had, regardless of how it ended, I respect you enough to do what? Keep whatever you said to me. And I don't gotta talk about you crazy or whatever the case is, because at the end of the day, during that time, I still fucked with you to this extent. So it is what it is, you know? And even if you are gonna talk about it, you're either gonna tell it in its totality, or you're gonna talk about it from perspective, but not to try and assassinate somebody's character just because you don't like them no more.
It's tough, because I've realized in life, I don't think people are naturally vindictive. I think it's like, they say love and hate are the same emotion on the opposite side of the same spectrum. So it's on the opposite side of the same spectrum. On the opposite side of the spectrum. So it's tough because with pain, like I said, I think it kind of goes with what I said with trauma. It conditions you to operate and act from a place where you're not your best self.
Yeah. And we've all been that. We've all had our moments where just like out of rage, out of anger, like, you know, we may have acted out or operated in a way that we wouldn't had we not been in that state. But I feel like also when you get to a certain level of your self-growth journey and everything else, you just kind of learn, like, you know what? I'm not going to dabble into that. I'm not going to acknowledge that. I'm not going to entertain that because it doesn't serve me or serve my purpose. And it's just like, after you've attempted to try and expose or assassinate somebody's characters, like, what do you get out of that in the end? You really don't get anything out of it. And now you've put yourself in a position where anybody who's around you who personally knows you just knows not to trust you to that extent because this is what you're capable of. And you destroy your current relationships, but also potential relationships because now you've shown that your trust barrier is very weak. Like, you know, you're not somebody who can be trusted.
Yeah. So how do you position yourself to not have to deal with things like this?
I feel like what I've had to learn is there's certain things I just personally have to keep to myself that I could like never tell anyone. And I feel like when I am ready to open up or talk about certain things that I may have experienced in my life or on my journey of getting to where I'm trying to be, it'll create context and perspective. But I just feel like my life would be like a testimony for other people who may not have known that I experienced similar things to them. Because a lot of us are walking this life experiencing similar experiences just through a different perspective. So we've just taken it in differently. But sometimes it doesn't matter if you want to achieve something. Sometimes the perspective of somebody who's been in it, who's similar to you or comes from the same background as you, can be more impactful than somebody else who's trying to do what you're trying to do.
No, without a doubt. No, I feel that. And you know, it's crazy. Knowing you from like how I know you, like your growth is really like, I don't even know if it's really a growth thing. Cause I don't like, I think you always kind of been this way. High key.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's a question of growth. I think you always kind of low-key been this way.
Yeah.
So, I guess now, you know, let's just to wrap up. Say, because it's getting late and I know you got to get home and stuff. What does peace look like for you?
I would say peace would possibly be for me just being able to do what I want to do and kind of just separate myself from people and not kind of be not necessarily be the main factor for certain people or like a pillar for certain people in my life. Being able to detach and have my me time or my time whereas like I'm isolated and it's just me and I'm able to self-reflect and do what I need to do. I don't want to be too endowed in so many things where everybody is like reliant on me and things can't move without me. I want to be able to create things that are operational where it's just like if I'm not involved or if I'm not there present in the physical or whatever, that it can be handled outside of me.
No, without a doubt. I feel that completely. Damn. All right, cool. Well, shit, is there anything you want to ask me?
I was gonna say, with what you're doing with your podcast, with your business, just everything altogether, what you're trying to solidify in your legacy, basically like your how would I word this? See how like every company, agency, group, whatever, they have like their mission statement and everything else. I would say your full vision for what you're trying to do now and where you can see it going in the next upcoming years, or even when you're not here. What do you want people to know, the essence and the core of your Immaculate vibes, Cletus, everything that you're doing, what it truly stands for, and who it's really for?
I would say, and that's a great question. Who I'm doing it for? I feel like I'm doing it for anybody who just grind. Like, and I hate that grind mentality. I ain't gonna say I hate the grind mentality, but I feel like a lot of people like to push this narrative like, oh, we just working, we just toiling. It's like, nah. Like, when I say grind, I mean like chiseling at their masterpiece. Like, imagine we building out a sculpture and we're trying to figure out how to build this beautiful Michelangelo or whatever sculpture, and just being able to really chisel out a masterpiece. And sometimes people don't see it after the first hit, the second hit, the third hit, but after the 10,000 to 15,000, it might start to making shape. And then before you know, after 100,000 hours of doing this, you see this masterpiece, and it's like, damn, this is what it was all about. So, and that's what I'm trying to do. Like, it ain't really I'm doing this for my mom. No, my mom and I, like, we have a relationship that I think, God forbid anything happened to myself or my mom, we both lived a very healthy, fruitful, and impactful life. So now we even operating from a place where we're not afraid. I'm not doing this for like no kids. I don't got no kids yet. But if I ever get the opportunity to have some children, they have a vantage point and a historical reference of who they peoples really were. Not who everyone else is saying. They could listen to the podcast, read your pop's books, look at the people he really messed with. Not the folks that could speak on him all the time on nice things, but look at the people he really was around. Look at the people that helped groomed you. Yeah. So for me, it's all about just like that concept of like being a builder. Like, I feel like I'm an artist. I am an artist. I'm a real Renaissance man in real time. But the problem is, we've been conditioned to believe that if you're doing too much, that you're unorganized, or if you're all over the place, that you don't have no specialty or no mastery. And it's like, who told you that? Just because you can only do one thing well, or just because you can only you can barely walk and chew gum, doesn't mean I should be subjective to not be able to walk, chew gum, text, call, FaceTime, handle a business call, make sure I'm flying, all of that. So when you think about it that way, what my goals in life is really to be exactly what I said it to be, which is to create a masterpiece through the work I create, and inspire people to be their highest versions of themselves. Because when I say where quality meets excellence, I dead mean that. I mean that. Because what I'm doing by myself with limited support and resources, somebody else in the same position would kill themselves. Would legit kill themselves. Jump off a fucking building. Crash out. So it's when you understand all of those type of things and what it takes, and you're seeing it.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. Like, we're legit seeing people get publicly crucified day in, day out, just for opposing opinions. And I've always been someone who always kept it real. You're seeing people who are turning on their friends, their brothers over girls, turning on their brothers over money, turning on their brothers because of positioning, turning on their brothers because they don't want their brother to feel like they want to create something, and they don't want their brother to be a part of that in the way that they want them to be a part of it. Like, I've had people tell me that they don't want me to be a part of stuff because they don't want people to think that it's mine.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I'm in a point where I'm trying to reach a level where like the people who are around me so because they're so secure in themselves and the things that they've done, that anything that we talk about don't sound like we bragging.
Right.
Because we all understood, like, to a certain extent, what that process must have looked like for this to happen. It's like motherfuckers will see a museum or see an art piece and then they're like, that's just fire, and they're like, that's just worth that. I don't get why, but they don't understand the process. How long it took that person to even get to the point that they felt comfortable enough just to show that they can do something like this. Mm-hmm. What were they willing to risk to make this shit happen? How many losses did they take quietly, silently, that could have been put in another position that easily could have made them probably make more but never fulfilled them? Like, people don't know the sacrifices, and I feel like that's why, you know, when it comes to like stuff like, you know, education or whatever the things that you're pursuing at a high level, like high clip. I'm not talking about shit that everyone do. I'm talking about the shit that only a few can do. Everyone there in that space, what makes them unique is that they have their own taste.
Or a fine taste, yeah.
And I feel like now I'm in a place where like I'm looking at your taste more than anything. Because your taste says a lot about you. Some people just don't got the same palate. You might eat some shit and think that shit is a steak. A nigga might be eating steak and be like, that shit is shit. You know, so that's what I'm about. Like, how do I live to the highest possible version of what me being me at the most authentic, unapologetic self looks like? Because now I'm in a space where like actual physical places have very minimal impacts on me.
Yeah.
Like noise, all that, because we're raised in places that are always chaotic. So now the issue I'm having is like, when I have peace, I don't even know what to do with it.
How to just fully be invested in that moment outside of everything, kind of detaching yourself.
It's kind of like it's like a plant, right? Like, you know, they always say like a plant has to grow through shit and dirt and darkness and all that to become what it needs to be. But some people, I feel like, are so conditioned to be in the soil that they don't understand that this process is helping you be the plant to see the sunlight. So it's like now you're in a place where anytime people see sunlight, they hate it.
Yeah.
Because now that shines a light on why their fruit ain't growing.
Yeah, and every harvest you won't reap a crop, but you know, eventually it's gonna grow. You just gotta be diligent.
And you also have to think, when God gives you certain type of talents and you're working in your talents at a high level, some people feel a type of way because it's like the things that they're looking for, you may not be looking for. So let's say like I'm putting my album out on Friday, right? And let's say a lot of people mess with it. There's people who are legit, their whole goals in life is to be these rappers, not because they care about the music, but because of the image, intention, of all the things that they feel they're not getting. For me, I could give a flying fuck about that. I want to know that I'm putting out some shit that really gonna move you. So when you think about just that, for somebody who may be looking at it like, yo, how's this nigga getting attention on the album? When he got time to put out an album? This nigga's actually really good at it, and people fucking with it. They only seeing the fact that, yo, nigga got a platform, he popular, and that he's getting all this attention. They not looking at the quality of the work. They're not looking at what we're doing now.
The hours you're putting in to set up the foundation so that you're able to scale. Everybody want to scale, but nobody want to focus on the foundational parts.
It's a process.
Like HR, people don't want to focus on the efficiency of their business. Everybody's looking for the quick come up, the gratification, the instant gratification, but there's so much more to that. Like there's something to be appreciated in the grind or in the seasons in which you're elevating in what you're doing, because all of that's going to cultivate not who you are, but the conglomerate you create.
And folks really just want a hit. They just want a quick hit. They want a quick hit. It's like drugs. Niggas want a quick hit. They want to feel high, and then once they get that high, they want to always chase that same feeling again. Whereas for me, it's like I could cake the quick hit, but shit, I just want to naturally be there.
Yeah.
I just want to naturally.
Some people are in it for the longevity, the vision, and some people are just in it for like the moment and what they can do with it.
And how other people perceive them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people are doing things for the perception of what they're doing, and I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm not doing this for no perception. I want to win. Like, I'm tired of feeling like I ain't winning. And I'm not saying like winning in the sense of like the world's, you know, giving me my flowers. It's not that, but it's like
winning on your terms.
It's like when do we get to the point where quality matters again? That's all. Like, it's like, damn, like if the money not the, and you know, the accolades, that you can only get so many degrees. Like, you get so many degrees until you have to really look in the mirror and be like, what the fuck are you really chasing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you could get as many properties as you want, and at the point you gotta be like, yo, what am I really doing this for? So for me, it's just like, yo, I know a lot of young niggas out there that really like don't understand that they're excellent already, because the conditions in which they're coming out of and the people that they're around and the trauma that they're facing, and then trying to also deal with the trauma of our ancestors. And then you also are in a society where everyone has a fucking opinion but nothing to base it off of.
Yeah, it makes it hard for them to feel content within themselves. There's somebody that I was recently had a conversation with, and they're basically trying to tell me that when they get to a certain level in an occupation or whatever, that's going to make them, like, solidify them as who they are. And I just really asked them, I'm just like, so if you don't attain this, you're not going to feel like you're who you are? You know what I mean? And then their response to me was basically saying, so are you interested in people who don't have money or don't have this? And I was just telling them, like, if you don't feel like your livelihood is enough to solidify you, it doesn't matter whether you have the career or you don't have the career. You're not content with yourself. So once I heard that, it kind of just opened my eyes. I'm just like, yeah, a lot of people they're just not there mentally for me and what I need and where I am. So it's just like, a lot of people just don't align with what I'm trying to do. And I can't force them to. It's kind of just like, I know what I'm trying to do, and as I'm on that journey, I'm going to encounter the people that are meant to be on the journey, whether it's for a short period of time or if it's for the long haul, but only time will tell.
No, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could talk forever. I mean, is there anything else we really got to talk about? Is there anything that we got to touch on? Anything
I was gonna
else?
say, yeah, you need to let them know what's going on with like the candles, the merch you're trying to drop. You need the updates.
We creating our own world. I think that's just the simplest level of it. Like, just out to my brother, one of the artists I work with. I ain't gonna say he's my artist, but one of the artists that I work with. And he said it best. He said, like, I'm creating a world where evil can't dwell. And I think that in itself is like what my mantra is. Like, I'm creating my own world, so much so that's like, it don't matter where the fuck I'm at. Evil, low vibration, whatever you want to call it, mediocrity, fear.
There.
No, I can't thrive though. I just can't, because I'm at the point where it's like, yo, I gotta, I know what it's gonna take. I know what it's gonna take. And I'm seeing it. And the beauty of seeing things is like, it's not like the history didn't repeat itself. It's not like we ain't never seen nobody do what we're seeing. And I mean, it's a lot of people that's the first, and I get that. But it's not like this is also like never been done. Yeah. And even if it's never been done, it's not like that doesn't make it something that you should just be content with. Like, if you're doing it for the accolades, then I always say that you're just in the wrong business. It's in life. If you're doing it because I want everyone to revere me as this, it's like, all right, well, that's a great motivation, but I hope that's not the sole purpose of what this is about, because it'll never be enough. It's like being with a bad joint, but her breath stinks. She don't take care of herself. She don't respect herself. The crib is bad, but it's the fact that you just wanted to be able to have a bad joint. Now that you have one, it's like, is it worth it? She's antisocial. She's always feeling the need to have somebody's attention. You can't trust her. Like, is it worth it now that you got it? And that's what I'm on. Like, it's like, for me, it's like I'm trying to get to the point where it's like the value of what I'm chasing is not something that money
can buy. Yeah. And you also, not necessarily in terms of like the overall message, but anybody that you're dealing with just gotta understand, like, this is what comes with being with me as a whole. So it's like, it's either you can fall in line or whatever, because whoever you deal with seriously, they're either going to be an asset or a liability. Not saying that, asset in terms of like monetary value, but in terms of like, are you going to help push the vision forward, or are you going to deter from the vision and deter on the path that I'm on? Because at this point that we're at, there's no room for distractions.
And I would even say, like, for me, like, being able to be with me looks the same, like, for everyone else. Like, I'm at the point, like, I've also realized, like, I love people, and I love a lot of different things about different people. It's very rare and sometimes unfair to expect everything you want out of one person.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not saying I'm not into monogamy, and I'm not saying like I don't believe that like one day I have a wife, but I'm saying like whoever I marry, like it has to be God given, because that's the only way it'll work.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way, because outside of that, then it's just vibes, and whatever vibes come with that, and that's also okay. Like, that ain't nothing wrong with that if it's just cool. But the problem is, what I've realized, especially with dealing with different women, it's like,
eventually that's not enough.
It's never enough. And I respect it. I get it. At least I would want you to be like, I need more. But at the same time, it's like,
I can't get what you're asking for.
And sometimes the stuff that they really asking for, they're not even really asking for it. They're not saying what they're really truly asking for. Like a girl will tell you, like, yeah, I want to do this with someone who's my boyfriend. And I'm saying here before, what is your boyfriend going to do for you that I'm not doing now? Like, what is the title of boyfriend going to do for you? Like, what is it gonna make you do that you weren't doing before? And the answer is usually nothing. The problem is a lot of women, they just want that security of being able to say that that's their nigga and that they could be able to be proud to publicize it. That's it. They just want the attention. They want the attention. They want to know that when they talk to their girls and they girls is talking about some other nigga, that they could also be a part of the conversation. Cool. But at the same time, I ask you, why do you care so fucking much what everyone else got to say? Because in reality, these ain't the people that even really fuck with you like that anyway.
Yeah, you just gotta deal with people on your terms and do what works for you, not what works for everybody else.
Yeah, create your own world where evil can dwell. Find peace. Like
even if you have a boyfriend, it's just a boyfriend. But are you guys married? Are you getting that? Does
it even do what it needs to do for you? Like,
exactly.
Is it really
and what is the true benefit of like what you're doing? So it's just like, when you're going into things with intentions, it's just like you just gotta know. And certain people, when they don't align with what you're intending to do, you just gotta make that choice. Where it's just like, yeah, you may be for fun, but it's like right now I'm not in a fun mode. I'm in go mode. I'm in grind mode. So I don't have the luxury to be playing with you the way you want to be played with right now. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be quite frank, I appreciate and I respect you. And spending today like just navigating New York and the city and just life with you, I want to always make sure that I can big you up and also let you know that you're a person of value and that I value not on the sexual aspect, because we ain't never in depth with that, and sometimes I feel like that's usually the most surface level thing, like sex appeal, like things we may post or what people might really physically be attached to, but just like the way your mind works and the things that you will do. Like I pray to God, like everything that you touch really turns to whatever it needs to turn into, and that you always find things that make you passionate and that inspires you and motivates you and grows you. Because like I seen you grind. Like I seen one thing about me, like I'll be watching when people be moving, I watch how they move, and I seen it, and like there's always flowers from me to you, always. And I just want to make sure that you understand, like, I'm not just saying this to gas you. Like, keep following whatever brings you peace. Keep following your faith. Keep following the divine direction that's giving you whatever it needs to give you. Because at the end of the day, you are someone that has been through a lot and don't wear their stripes. And that also says a lot too. So, because I would say sometimes it's not what people say, it's what they're not saying. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not even. And sometimes all you gotta do is you could just tell. Like when you know, you just feel it. So it's kind of like it's respect, always. And I appreciate that. Respect.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
No doubt.
And thank you for sharing your platform with me.
No, this was cool because I felt like a lot of these other platforms, they be doing all these clickbaity, freaky, nasty, sex dickhead or nasty shit. And I feel like that's cool, but there's a way to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I feel like it should also be educational, because like you also have to remember, like, the topics that you're talking about have positive and negative consequences. A lot of people want to talk about sex but don't want to be educational about it, and I feel like that's also dangerous when you use your platform to promote things that you can't even be educational on.
I'll just take it a step further. Keep it quite frank. Everything ain't just about that, and everyone ain't just that.
Exactly.
And I think what tends to happen also when no one wants to talk about is that, like, you open up room for people to only be perceived a certain type of way, and that's not safe either. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not safe. Like, if I only am some mixy party nigga to you, then I'm definitely not your type, because the process of that alone ain't even fun.
Yeah.
And it's very rare where you meet somebody who's a mixy party nigga that really is this deep and do it for what I do it for. So when it comes down to that, the conversation's already naturally different. What we do it for is different, and just positioning myself is different. So I don't know. I just trust God, trust the process, and trust myself, man.
And you wear my favorite color today, green. So I'm just like, wow, it's crazy. I was gonna wear my green tracksuit.
You said it yesterday. I was like, and then when I went outside, I was like, yo, today is definitely tracksuit weather. That's why I texted you today. I was like, yeah, today's 6 grad travel. But man, without a doubt, thank you so much for your time, your energy. If people want to connect with you, follow you, get to know you, where can they go to do so?
My YouTube channel is Indigo. I haven't posted a video in a few years, but I will be back to posting. And then the best place to follow me would be Instagram. So it's Indigo RE with a 3, and the RE is ARI3.
Okay, cool. And then, like, I guess my final question is like, where can we see you next? Was you asked the same question for me that you asked was basically, why am I doing this? What is yours? Like, what is the next thing that you're working towards?
I would say,
are you doing this for yourself?
I'm doing this definitely for myself, but I would just say part of what I'm doing is definitely to just show other people that there's other ways of doing something, and that whatever you do see me doing, it's either as an example to be a testimony or for it to be a cautionary tale, depending on what I'm doing at a certain place in my life. And you can just take that and choose how you want to apply it or not apply it to your life based on who you are and what works for you.
I love that.
But I have no desire to be a role model. So
nah, I feel that. I mean, I wouldn't say you don't have no desire, but like, your intention is not to be someone that, you know, yeah.
Not everybody can walk in someone else's shoes. Like,
yeah, you ain't begging for that. You ain't begging for that. you ain't sitting here begging for that. If someone gives you the opportunity, cool, but that's not what you begging for. I feel that.
Fair.
All right, well, shit, I think it's time for us to go. Yeah, I'm not really going to sign off today. I just want to say thank y'all so much for your support. Immaculate Scents coming soon. Immaculate Drip coming soon. Immaculate Tape dropping Friday, 11/11/22. Yeah, we got a whole lot of other Immaculate shit. Everything Immaculate _ on Instagram. Immaculate Enterprises _ Instagram. The Cletus Group. Powered by Cletus _RealTalk. That's still there, but if you don't get accepted, it's not personal. Just protecting my peace. And then Talk Ain't Cheap Network, Bros Stigmas. We also have our Bros Retreat coming up. We're probably going to aim to do it in Aries season, depending on how things work out. If not, we might do it around Valentine's Day. And like I said, just thank you. Like, I appreciate you. Like, I needed this more than you thought, more than you may have known. So thank you. And this was a good fucking vibe. I appreciate you. All right, cool. Well, I don't know how to sign off for 51st dates, but I'll just keep it consistent. It's not that deep. It's a vibe.
Thank you.